Brave Dave says you fronting on a bloody bean, Anton. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. He survived 58 years of Boston. Show him some respect. Why? For what? He was a millionaire. He was a millionaire. Why? He fumbled. He fumbled. Why would I have respect for him and he fumbled? He fumbled everything. I don't have no respect for that. Like, come on, man. Still talking about what you was doing in the 80s? In the 80s? Man, the 80s was garbage, bro. Just like my man said on Instagram, the 80s was garbage. I don't care nothing about what's going on in the 80s, my nigga. What's happening with Christian Wood, bro? I heard Christian Wood was crashing out. Let me see. Christian Wood. Let's switch over to Christian Wood. 80s was garbage. All right? Straight up. So first of all, the first thing that popped up on my algorithm was Christian Wood apparently got some chick. He got a kid with some chick, right? 80s was garbage. 80s was hot garbage. And that's a fact, though. Hold on, let me move this around. Why do y'all keep saying that he was a beast back in the day? How do y'all know that he was a beast? How do y'all know that he was a beast? What made him a beast? I don't believe you. I don't believe that he was a beast. Christian Wood, I heard, was out here in these streets fumbling around with a random chick that he shouldn't have been in a relationship with, right? And this is the chick that he allegedly had got pregnant, okay? So her name is, watch your mouth, Time. Man, ain't nobody checking for that. You would have got your head split in the 80s. I was born in the 80s. Man, hold on. Okay, before we get into this, let me just say this. You niggas in the 80s was crackheads, bro. Listen, I don't got no respect for you old niggas that was in the 80s that fumbled your families. I don't have no respect for you niggas in the 80s that fumbled your families. You niggas was the worst. Y'all was the worst of all time. Of all time. In history, I cannot think of a worse group of people. Let me be more specific. I cannot think of a worse group of black men than black men that was in the 70s and the 80s. The 70s and the 80s black men was the worst of all time. You guys were the all-time losers of life. I ain't got no respect for y'all. Listen, all y'all was crackheads and baseheads. Y'all was the modern day fentanyl users. Y'all was dancing and water waving in the street. You would have did anything for some crack rock. Y'all fumbled y'all families. Y'all gave us feminism. Y'all lost control of y'all households. Man, I ain't got no respect for none of y'all in the 80s. Y'all was trash. Y'all was hot garbage. Hot garbage. The majority of y'all in the 80s was hot garbage. Y'all women was for the streets. Y'all don't even know who y'all daddies are. Man, y'all was trash. 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 What y'all sitting here talking about the 80s? Well, we supposed to respect y'all? Listen, even in the NBA, y'all was coked up. Y'all was coked up on the basketball court in the 80s. Y'all didn't even have no hairlines. Hey, how come everybody from the 70s and the 80s looked like they was 60 even though they was 20? Everybody from the 70s and the 80s, every man in the 70s and the 80s looked like they was 70 years old. They aged backwards like Benjamin Button. They all had missing hair right here. They had that donut. They was looking just like Homer Simpson. They dressed bad. They clothes was tight. They was poor. Y'all made some of the worst cars in history. The worst cars in history came in the 80s. In the 80s. Y'all had unions. Y'all had jobs. Y'all stood on the shoulders of everybody that came before us and y'all ruined every black city. All of the black, we paying, listen, if we gonna get reparations, I think we need to be reparated from what the fathers did in the 80s. If we shouldn't be holding black men accountable today. It ain't even their fault. We gotta hold black men accountable for the 80s. 80s men was garbage. If you was 26 through 39, 26 through 45 in the 80s, and you was alive, matter of fact, I'm gonna go back. 18 through 54 in the 80s, if you was in that age range, you was hot garbage. In 1985 and above, or 1985 and below, you was garbage. You ruined your family. You was the worst of the worst. Your fathers and your daddies went up north to go and get y'all some jobs. They worked, they grind, they was in the steel mills, they was in the plants, and y'all ruined y'all families, and all y'all did was spend all of y'all money on hoes. I know dudes that was in the 80s that was working in the plant. They still working in the plant today. You know why they still working in the plant? Because they still got women that they got to pay child support for today. That's the 80s man. 80s men are 80 years old today paying child support. Y'all was the worst. Y'all was the culture vultures. Trash. Worst cars. Y'all the ones that gave Toyota and Honda Motor Company all of the blueprint to take over the industry today. Y'all made the worst quality cars. JD Power and Associates hated y'all. Y'all ruined life. Everything about y'all was trash. Y'all clothes was trash. Y'all women was trash. Y'all haircuts was trash. Y'all spent y'all money. Y'all fumbled the homes. White flight ruined Detroit, Chicago. Everything about you niggas is trash in the 80s. I don't care nothing about you motherfuckers. 80s, you know what y'all can do. 80s was trash. Worst time in the history of black folk was the 80s. Even the dark 80s man is saying so. No, the cars was trash in the 80s. They introduced us to V6. We got the V6 in the 80s. They put a V6 in a goddamn Mustang. A 6-cylinder in a Mustang. We got the Pinto in the 80s, dog. Nigga, the worst cars in history was made in the 80s. Shit. Couldn't do nothing. Destroyed every American brand in the 80s. Chrysler gave you them trash-ass cars. GM couldn't fucking build a car to say they like quality was in the hole. Ford Motor Company almost went bankrupt with that trash-ass car that they was doing. Fucking 80s. And everybody was coked up on basketball. It took fucking Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson to save the whole fucking industry. Trash ass niggas. Don't talk to me about the 80s. You'd have got your head split. Nigga, everybody that played in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s and today would have destroyed you niggas. Anybody in any industry was better than all of you niggas in the 80s. Y'all niggas was trash. Y'all just look old. The fuck out of here. Talking to me about no goddamn 80s. The 80s. We're in the 80s. Niggas is crackheads. Niggas that was born in the 80s is crackheads today. You crackheads, basehead ass motherfuckers. Talk to me about no 80s. Now let's get to Christian Wood. Talk to me about no goddamn 80s. I don't respect you niggas. I don't even like you niggas.